Okay, take two. Take two. Take two. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Actually, it's take three. The first time I had the camera facing the wrong way, and it was behind the steering wheel. The second time, I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and the camera just like disappeared. I think that's because a notification came. I don't know, but the camera shouldn't just shut off like that, even if a notification did come in. So I don't know what that one was all about. So this is take three. Here we go. And I hate repeating myself, man. It's so frustrating saying the same thing twice. I guess I could never be an actor because they have to do the same takes over and over and over again. And every time they say it, they have to say it with equal or even more passion, like it's the first time they've ever said it. I mean, that's like, to me, that's, I don't know. I have difficulty with that concept. But anyway, this is take three. I've been wanting to do this video for a long time. This is a story, a true story, firsthand, my personal experience of when I saw an actual angel. Now, I have some disclaimers. And let me just repeat that in case I was talking too fast, because I do that sometimes. This is my story firsthand of when I personally, firsthand with my own eyeballs, saw an angel. Okay? But I got some disclaimers to make, okay? This story is not as fantastical as it sounds. I have more fantastical stories, a couple of them, but they're secondhand, not firsthand. So I don't even know if I'll ever tell those stories because I didn't personally experience it, you know? Maybe I will. I don't know, maybe I will. But definitely I've been wanting to do this one for a long time, okay? But I have to, that was the one disclaimer. Here's another disclaimer. The other disclaimer is my personal view of spiritual experiences, supernatural experiences. And it is this, that a supernatural experience can almost always, or it's not always, in my experience it's always, but in the world I don't believe it's, in the world at large, I don't think it's always. I think it's almost always. But anyway, spiritual experiences are like double entendres. They can go one way or the other. Like it depends upon the predisposition and the inclination of the observer in terms of how they are inclined to interpret things, right? And the biblical example that comes to my mind is Pharaoh standing on the edge of the Red Sea after he personally firsthand just witnessed the sea open up and a nation of 5 million people, or 15 million, however many it was, they only counted the men, so whatever, however many it was, 2 million, 5 million, 15 million, whatever. A lot of people, walked across on dry land. Old people, young people, babies, pregnant women, disabled people, all kind of people, right? Walked across a sea that had just opened up to form walls on two sides, walls of water, which is hard to imagine in and of itself. And then the land was dry. Okay, which is kind of weird also, right? So he just personally witnessed this event. Okay? Oh, and then when his army went in to chase everybody across, because they had already made it to the other side, the walls of water came down and his entire army, the most powerful nation on the earth, at least in that part of the world, maybe the entire world, who knows, but at least in that part of the world, the preeminent society, the preeminent culture, the preeminent everything. His entire army, boom, gone, right? What an event, because if you're at the ocean and you see the storm, the storm waves coming in, I mean, it's dramatic, right? And the wind is blowing and the water's, coming in the wind picks up the water. If you're standing close by, you get a little damp, I mean, so this is that kind of experience times 100, because when you go to the beach, nobody gets killed, right? Like, and definitely not an entire army, so it's a very violent, like dramatic, amazing experience. Oh, I just thought of another experience I had that was firsthand too. Oh, I got to tell you that one. That was amazing. This one is amazing too, though. Okay, but not. Anyway. So that's what I think of it. And so the thing is, it's like, cause it was a double entendre for Pharaoh, right? Because he was not inclined to stand there and interpret that as, oh, look at the hand of God. He just saved his people. This is unbelievable. I better get out of my chariot, take my shoes off, and bow down and worship the God of the Jews. I mean, we don't know what he did. We don't know. It doesn't say, the Bible doesn't say. But I'm not inclined to believe that's what he did. I'm inclined to believe that he stood there and was like, what the heck is this? Where did that wind come from? You see what I'm saying? We have a choice as to how we interpret things. And I believe, it's just personal opinion, that Pharaoh interpreted that unbelievable event according to his own personal predisposition, right? Which was not his, it's not so much of a predisposition in the positive, it's more of a predisposition in the negative. It's like how he was not predisposed to interpret the event. And he was not predisposed to interpret the event from the perspective of the faith of the Jews. And I'm not even sure the Jews were either, but that's a different story. Okay, so that's what I mean. When a spiritual event happens, you could be there with the people that know you and love you the best in the world, and that you love and you know the best in the world. 3 of you standing there. An event happens. It means something to you. You turn to them. You say, did you see that? And they say, see what? And you say, that guy just walked by and he did this and then he did that and then he did this. And they're like, yeah, so what? What's that got to do with anything? And you're like, don't you get it? And they're like, no, we don't get it. What's wrong with you? You know, I mean, that to me, in my experience, that's kind of what a spiritual, that's what a spiritual experience is like. Okay, now I know people, like I said, secondhand, that have had the other kind. Okay, that is just undeniable for any rational person. See, now Pharaoh was not rational, right? And there are people who will see something that is blatantly spiritual, okay, but they're not rational, and they will turn to mechanistic, materialistic, Western cause and effect, ways to explain it away. Basically, they're not really interpreting it so much as they are explaining it away. They're like denying it. They're like trying to erase it from their mind. Okay, with logical arguments. Despite the fact that the logical arguments don't fit what actually happened. And so there's all that. Okay, so there's one disclaimer. There's 2 disclaimers, and then this is a really cool. To me, this is a super cool disclaimer. This in and of itself is super cool. There's a guy on the YouTube, and I'm sorry my eyes are so squinty. Look how squinty my eyes are. I was up till 7:30 in the morning on social media, and wow. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, and I think I got up at like 11, so I only had like 3.5 hours of sleep, so that's why my eyes are so squinty. William Schneebelen, am I pronouncing his name right? I have no idea. It's something like that. Anyway, I'll try to provide a link to his channel. Anyway, he's like a spiritual prodigy. You could have like a math prodigy who can, you explain math to him or her, and it's not like it has to penetrate his mind and be consumed and digested there. It's like it lights his mind on fire, right? And he takes 3 pieces of information about mathematics, or she takes 3 pieces of information about mathematics that you give them, and they're just like running with it. And then they start feeding you information, right? Because they extrapolated from those 3 pieces, 27 other pieces, and now they're feeding you 30 pieces. And you're just like, what the heck, this guy's a prodigy. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. You got math prodigies, music prodigies, there's geologic prodigies. There's people that are just good at geology. I mean, there's people, there's a guy that I follow on the internet. I want to follow him more, but anyway, I want to invest more time in what he does. But Eric P. Dollard, he's an electrical theory prodigy, okay? He's an older guy, and I didn't know this before I started following him, but electrical theory guys are stereotypically, characteristically, sort of, how do you say this? The crazy hair. Crazy, that's what I'm trying to say. Crazy. The crazy hair, the wild look in their eyes, they're just like, and he even says that. Okay, so I'm not tossing anything derogatory in their direction. He He says that. I'm talking about throughout history. I'm not talking about modern day stuff. I'm talking about throughout history. Anyway, this guy's an electrical theory prodigy. Now, electrical theory is separate from electrical engineering. Those are two different things. Electrical engineering is a lot of application, known principles, known laws, and you just take those known things and you apply them and you build stuff. That's electrical engineering. Electrical theory is, okay, we don't want, teach us the known stuff, but we're not going to follow it. We just want to use it as a reference point to learn more. That's electrical theory. So they come up with new theories, new ideas, new laws, So I love this guy. He's amazing. He's known as the modern day Tesla because he has recreated many of Tesla's machines, which is extraordinary because there is no documentation for these machines. And I was just working on something the other day that I got for my grandson. Oh yeah, it was a rocket. It came with 80 pieces. And I mean, I had to have that instruction paper like right there, and I had to look at step 2A like 6 times, like this. Okay. And that's just building a simple little thing, right? A child's toy. We're talking about advanced machinery that 99.9% of the people who work in the field of electrical engineering don't understand. And there's no instructions. And this guy recreated it. And I have to tell you why I love this guy, even though it's kind of chasing a rabbit. One of the reasons. One of the reasons I love this guy is because he says so matter-of-factly, he goes, this is what my life is like. I spend 3 or 4 years doing research on on machinery. Then I go and I get I do fundraising and I get the money I need to acquire a workshop and the material and all that kind of stuff. And then I spend 4 or 5 years building the machines. And then men in black and dark suits come with baseball bats and bags of salt, and they break my machinery and they pour salt all over everything. And I guess salt is a very good electrical conductor. So if you pour salt on an electrical machine, you can't ever plug it in again because the electricity won't follow the engineered circuitry. It'll just go everywhere and it'll wreck everything. So, but he's not the least bit curious or interested in who these men are. He doesn't care. He's like, it actually helps me because when you're building something, you always think of a better way to do it, but you can't go back to zero to do it all over again because you've got people that you're answering to for financial interest and stuff like this. He goes, but if they come and they wreck everything, he goes, I have the opportunity to go back to zero. And he goes, I actually go back to negative. I go back to the negative, which means I start over at the theory. And he goes, I always learn more things when I re-study the theory that is applicable to the machinery that I'm building. And that helps me rebuild the machine better, right? I mean, what an amazing attitude. He goes, I don't care who these men are. He said, if you want to go figure it out, you can go figure it out. He goes, but I don't really care. It doesn't have anything to do with what I'm about. I mean, he's just about his craft. He's just passionate about his craft. I mean, and to me, that just touches my heart. That really speaks to me. That's like, man, that's the way God made us to be. God didn't make us to be controllers, manipulators, even profiteers. I mean, obviously we have to make a profit, but there's a level of being a profiteer when the profit is the only thing you care about. At the expense of everything that's human. And that's a deep evil. That's a very deep evil. I got no problem with being a millionaire, a billionaire, a trillionaire, a quadrillionaire. I got no problem with that. All right, but it's the spirit, right? It's the intention. You could be a homeless guy and have an evil spirit, a negative spirit. You could be a homeless guy and have so the money doesn't have anything to do with that. It's like two separate tracks for a train. You got the the physical reality, the material reality of your life, and then you got the intention, the spiritual reality. It's like two tracks, Anyway, so the third disclaimer was I started talking about Eric P. Dollard. Why did I start talking about Eric P. Dollard? Electrical theory. There was 3 disclaimers. The first disclaimer was my perspective on what a spiritual experience is like. The second disclaimer was, oh, I know why I was talking about Eric P. Dollar. It was because of this guy, William Schneebelen. Now, William Schneebelen is and I can't remember the first disclaimer. The second disclaimer was the nature of spiritual experiences. The first disclaimer was something else I can't remember right now. But anyway, I was talking about William Schneebelen. Now, William Schneebelen was a vamp, according to him. He's an old guy. He looks like Eric P. Dollar. They're both little men with beards. They look like Irish. They look like those St. Patty Day things, leprechauns. They look kind of like leprechauns, right? Both these guys, little bitty guys, like 5'2", little tiny guys, right? And just kind of like a wild look in their eyes and like hair going everywhere, kind of in a way. So anyway, that's why I started talking about Eric P. Dollar. Now, William Schneebelen is a spiritual prodigy. He claims to have been a vampire, a druid, witch, a elder in the Mormon Church, a priest in the Catholic Church, something in the people that knock on the doors, Jehovah's Witness, now he's a Messianic Christian, and there's so many Messianic Christians popping up everywhere, man. I'm trying to wrap my head around it all. I'm having difficulty. I went to a Messianic synagogue way back in the day down in Fort Lauderdale when I was, like 20 years old, and it was super cool. I really liked it, but I never really I just didn't get it. I don't know. I just didn't get into it. But anyway, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. That's what he is. He's a Messianic Christian. And according to him, and it sounds right to me, that's why I'm passing it along. According to him, in the Bible, okay, angels never have wings. He says that's like a pop culture, even if it's the pop culture of the 12th century or the 14th century. He says that's like a pop culture embellishment, So number one, they never have wings. Number two, see, this is pretty interesting. Number two, they're always male. Okay, it's like the Bible says, in heaven the angels neither marry nor are given in marriage. Okay, so they're always male. They don't have wings, and they're always male. And this fits with what the no wing thing fits with what Tesla did, but I don't want to get into all that because that's a real rabbit chase. Okay, so they don't have wings and they're always male. And number three, okay, it's all coming together a little bit. Number three, they love human women. They love human women, and that's what the fallen angels got messed up with. That got God so mad at them that he kicked them out of heaven. I guess they could go back and forth, right? The book of Job, it talks about them going into heaven and then going back to earth. At some point in time, these angels could go back to heaven, back to earth, back to heaven, back to, at will, basically. Okay? So they did the forbidden thing and got involved with human women and created these hybrid beings, okay? And according to all these people, all these Messianic Jewish type people, or a lot of them anyway, they were giants. They were the giants, right? And there's a verse in the New Testament. William Schneebelen says that the verse in the New Testament that warns women to cover their heads or to cover their hair, it's not for men, it's for angels, because angels love human women. Okay? So, to me, I don't know, man. I don't know. It sounds reasonable to me. I mean, because if you look at it like a piece of a puzzle, it's like, yeah, those pieces kind of fit together, actually, yeah, when he says that kind of thing. So those are my disclaimers. I can't remember the first disclaimer. Was it like a first-hand thing? The second disclaimer was the nature of spiritual experiences. They're like a double entendre type thing. And the third disclaimer is that angels have no wings; they're always men. And then their interest in human women is not relevant to my experience. Okay, but I mean it's in there with the whole William Schneebelen thing. So I threw it in. All right, so here's the story. Okay, because this is getting long. I always go long, but here's the story. I was a UPS driver down in Deerfield Beach, Florida, which is right next to Boca Raton, also close to Fort Lauderdale. In case you don't know where Deerfield or Boca Raton is, probably know where Fort Lauderdale is. It's down there in that area. It's Boca, Deerfield, Fort Lauderdale. That's going north to south, okay? Boca Raton, Deerfield Beach, Fort Lauderdale. I was living in Deerfield Beach, working in Deerfield Beach. That's where the UPS hub was, and I was a UPS driver. And I got frustrated. My wife and I joined Amway, and that changed my life. I mean, it changed our lives. Ultimately, it changed our lives for the worse, for the much worse. But God's plan is bigger than all that. It's bigger than 20 years. It's bigger than 30 years. It's bigger than my lifetime. It's bigger than 6 generations. It's bigger than 100 generations. It's bigger than all that. So I don't have this negative attitude about it. What it did is it broke me out of the system. It broke me out of the brainwashed employer-employee system, and that it gave me an entrepreneurial fire, basically. Okay, so at some point in time, my wife and I said we're going to save this amount of money, then I'm going to quit my job, we're going to start our own bit, blah blah blah. Well, I got about halfway there and I got impatient. I'm like, I just want to quit my job right now. So because I had never had that much money in my life anyway. I never knew anybody that did. My dad never had any money. I mean, they had a good lifestyle, but they were always in debt. That kind of a thing. You make $50,000, you spend $50,000. No, you make $50,000, you spend $55,000. You make $100,000, you spend $110,000. You make $250,000, you spend $280,000. You spend $800,000, you make $800,000, you spend $900,000. I mean, that's typical, right? That's a typical way for a lot of people to live. Not everybody, but a lot. I don't know if it's 20%, 30%, 60%, but 60%, but it's a lot of people live that way, right? So that's typical. That's the consumer society, and that's the way our entire economic model, I believe, is built. That's who it's built for. Okay. So I got about halfway there because I had this money and I never experienced that before. I never had that much money. It wasn't a lot of money. It was like $15,000 or something like that. And like I said, I never knew anybody that had that much money. So I'm like, I called her on the phone. I was like, I just want to quit now. So boom, right there. She said, fine, do it. So I called my boss and said, I want to quit. I still had packages to deliver. And they said, are you sure? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. They said, well, you're going to finish your route? Yeah, I'm going to finish. Yeah, of course I'm going to finish my route. So I went back. Boom, that was it. I was done. Okay? So I started my own delivery service, on-time courier service. And we, at a certain point in time, we had this old Volvo at like 300,000 miles. We had 4 kids. It was excellent. I mean, it was a brown Volvo, the station wagon, had the seat facing backwards. The kids loved that backwards seat. They used to sit there and wave at the truckers. I mean, and they used to fight over. He got to sit in the back. It was awesome, man. That was an awesome car, and I drove that car for like 280,000 miles, and the odometer stopped working, and I just kept driving it. I mean, the axle was bent. When the car was running, you could look under the engine compartment and just see the oil drip, 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 drip. I mean, it was in rough shape, man, and the seats were torn, but that thing never stopped. 500 miles a day, West Palm to Miami, West Palm to Miami, West Palm, boom, 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 like a ping pong, and and everywhere in between too. It was just incredible. So I had this one client that was a pharmacy, and we had to deliver drugs, like giant grocery bags full of drugs, to these retirement homes every day. It was a regular route, and I think there was 3 of them, I think, and one of them was in North Miami, and it was in a rough neyborhood. I mean, it was rough, So for whatever reason, I know why. My wife's grandmother lived in Hialeah. 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 Yeah, I think it was Hialeah, North Miami. We used to tell our kids we're going to see Lita in Miami, and my daughter said one time, "Are we going to Urami one time?" Anyway, that's an inside thing. We thought it was adorable at the time, but Miami, Urami. She's a little kid. So I had the kids in the car, I had my wife in the car. I turned the corner because I had to turn right to go to this retirement home, and I believe it was Miramar or Hialeah. It was North Miami, so I think it might have been Miramar. And the car just turned off, and I was like, oh, man. I mean, as much driving as I did, I was used to the car having problems, and I mean, I would just pull off the road. I changed the radiator on the side of the road in like 15 minutes one time. My dad called me, and he was like, how did you do that? I'm like, I fix the car all the time. I mean, stuff just breaks. I just get a new one and put it on. Bing, bang, boom, boom. It's done, and we're back. We're rolling again. So he couldn't believe I changed a radiator in like 15 minutes. It was pretty cool. But what was I going to say? So the car turned off. So it's not really an emergency, but we're in a bad neighborhood. I got a car full of kids, and I got my wife, and we're supposed to be at her grandmother's house. And it's like, oh man, whatever. And I can't remember distinctly, or if I prayed. We were always very like Christian and very religious, so probably we did pray. I mean, that would not be something that would be out of the norm for us to pray about the situation, because it was kind of a little bit touch and go, it's bad neighborhood, all that kind of stuff. So, Okay, so here's what happened. It's a big buildup, and you're going to be like, yes, you did that giant buildup for this. This is it right here. This is it. This is it. Remember the double entendre. Remember the no wings. Okay, remember that. Okay. This guy, within 5 minutes, okay, this guy pulls up behind us. Okay, a nice looking, fit, tall, 6'2", 6'3", not like 8 foot, nothing like that, nothing outrageous, but just a nice, fit looking guy pulls up, comes walking up, real calm, real normal, everything normal. And he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" We're like, "Good." He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "My car died. I turned the corner, the car turned off." And he said, "Oh," he goes, "Well, I'm a Volvo mechanic." And we're like, "What?" A Volvo mechanic. Right? Okay. So you start us getting the idea, right? So this Volvo mechanic shows up like 5 minutes after our car breaks down. And he said, "What happened?" And I explained, I just turned the corner and the car turned off. And I think I had already taken the fuse box off, and I didn't know what I was looking for. I mean, my dad was an electrical engineer, but I could never learn anything from my dad. I mean, there's no way, man. I could barely talk to the guy, I could definitely never learn anything from him. He's a nice guy, but, we just didn't have that kind of relationship, So I love my dad, and don't get me wrong. My dad was a super sweet man. He was a super nice guy. But just whatever. That's that. So, I never learned anything. That's the part of the car I never learned anything about, is the electricity. I mean, I could change plugs, and I could do stuff. And if you give me an hour, I could figure out which fuse it was. Probably, maybe, but it, I